How's it going, everybody? Tonight, I am bringing you a double review of sorts of two G36s, which I currently have in my possession. First off, we have the SRC G36. I think they call it a Mark 36, but whatever. Then we actually have the Classic Army G36. Now, before I get started, something actually about both of these guns. I'm not sure you can find them anymore. I'm pretty sure both are actually discontinued at this point. So, right from the start, you might be wondering, why am I doing this review? Because these are still out there. I mean, you can find them, they're around, like you're probably not going to be able to find them on places like Airsoft GI or Airsplat. Actually completely blanking on sites at this point. Airsoft Megastore. I don't think you're actually going to be able to buy new versions of these. Where you might actually be able to find them, though, boneyards on sites like Airsoft GI or the Megastore. Also, secondhand, like from people selling in your local community, little Airsoft classified ads, Craigslist, another place. So, you can still find these if you do just really prefer Classic Army as a brand. I mean, some people do. Some people very much insist on having everything Classic Army or everything Echo 1. I get that. So, these two guns right now, there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of things that you can definitely tell one's Classic Army and one's not. First off, the price. SRC was asking about $180 for theirs. Now, first of all, it did not come with this metal front end. That was actually an aftermarket piece, which you can still find. I think it runs anywhere from 60 to 80 bucks. Is it worth it? Maybe. For aesthetics, hell yeah. I think it really completes the gun. I think it makes it look absolutely freaking awesome. You got a lot more space for whatever you want to put underneath. You got left and right rails as well as a top rail now, in addition to the one up here. Drawbacks: battery compartment. Now, there have been people that have actually wired their G36s to the back with a crane stock of sorts and then stuck a battery in there, been just fine. Now, if you're going to use the front end metal rail system, you can only hold a nunchuck battery because a small type battery is not going to sit in there. It might, but you'll probably break it in half. So you're going to be stuck using this thing, which is a PEQ box. And I have no problem with these. I mean, a lot of people don't like the wire sticking out the side connected to the PEQ box. I think they're pretty awesome. I think it allows for a hell of a lot of battery options, especially compared to a very small nunchuck battery. So, with that out of the way, the SRC G36 by itself, this is not the best G36 I've seen. This is pretty far from it. Just overall construction, not fantastic, but at the same time not horrible. The body, it does seem very plasticky. I mean, nothing on it creaks all that much, which is definitely a plus. I mean, if you know a lot of people out there, that's usually their first complaint of cheap guns is creaky body. This one doesn't creak all that much. My biggest complaint about it actually is two things. First off, the stock is unbelievably wobbly, and there's probably ways that you can tighten that. I haven't found any at this point, so yeah, it wobbles like freaking crazy. Another thing, this probably has one of the jiggliest selector switches I have ever seen. I mean, it's very loose. It doesn't feel like it actually slides into place when you're switching between full auto, semi, and safe. It just kind of feels like it rolls and it barely stays there. So I'm actually really worried about fielding this gun and switching between that because I feel like it's just going to pop right off there. So those are my two biggest complaints about this gun. Performance-wise, I'm not terribly certain yet because this gun actually came to me broken. The story of it was, a guy bought it new, and it just developed a world of problems after a couple games and it just got put in a closet. He took the battery out, he left it there, he just didn't want to work on it. And now it came to me. So, and after a little research, I found out that's actually not that uncommon of an incident with SRC for their guns to be just very finicky. So, what I'm doing is just getting the word out there yet again that the interior of their guns just might not be the best quality. FPS, they're supposed to come shooting about 312, and that's not bad for a CQC gun. Outdoors, you know, you might want something a bit heavier. Why I got this, though, was he was actually asking an incredibly cheap price, and I'm either going to attempt to get it fixed with the help of two individuals who know a lot about G36s. One actually has an entire gun worth of spare parts that he's going to help me dump into this. Also, I got it for parts for myself in the future, because the price I paid for it would pretty much cover the front-end rail system alone. Also possibly to part out and help other people out. So that was pretty much why I got it. I got it knowing it was broken. But I did want to just say a few things on the quality of the construction itself. Like, the body isn't the best, stock's a little wobbly, selector switch isn't great. I do like one aspect about it for the price you get. By the way, all G36s, charging handle up here underneath the carry handle. Pull that back. Same with dexterous, actually. It's very cool. I do love the G36. It's one of my favorite guns. I think it always will be. So, pull that back, and reveals the lovely hop-up in there. It's actually a metal hop-up, and the JG uses a plastic hop-up, so this is actually one step above the JG. I would actually, that's something I'm going to say, I would actually suggest this over the JG, because the JG, if you've heard it fire, it just sounds like the interior is going to explode at any minute. Find that and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Also, I do like the fact that it is a metal hop-up, and if I'm being honest, JG's guns always just felt a little plasticky to me, so I think it'd be even worse than this, and it is something that I've heard about. So, overall thoughts with the SRC. If you are going to find one, it's probably going to be secondhand, and I think they're probably going to be selling it for a good reason, so make sure you're buying it for a pretty damn cheap price. And if it's working great, that's awesome. I mean, you're probably going to get it for a lot less than it would have been worth when you bought it new. So, if I was going to suggest it, I would suggest it to very new players. Someone who's looking around their local community and finds someone selling SRC G36, 60 bucks, 70 bucks, works just fine. That'd be a great thing to jump on, because I think the G36 is actually a fantastic starter gun. Ooh, I know what else I was going to mention. Okay, this is something I haven't seen on all that many G36s, and that is the mag release, which actually sits underneath the trigger guard. Now, if I pull up the classic Army version right here, you see the mag release, excuse me, is just a single lever that you push on, but here it is the same lever, but attached to a device which actually runs back and sits right underneath the trigger. So, seamless transition between pulling on the trigger and dropping the mag. I honestly haven't seen that on any G36 which comes to mind. I don't know why it's on this one specifically, but holy crap, is it fancy as hell. And yeah, I like it. So that's probably my biggest pro about the SRC G36. I know it's not much of one. I get, the quality isn't that bad. So, yeah. It gets a pass. It's okay. It's nothing to write home about. So, that is the SRC G36. I would recommend it to new players. I wouldn't, however, recommend it for people just kind of looking for something else and not something to start off with. If you're looking for something different than what you currently have and you want a G36, I'd say pick something different. I would, right now, I'm going to say go with Echo 1, because Echo 1 has not let me down. Now, let's turn to the classic Arma G36. First of all, this actually is a gun which I am currently helping a friend repair. It's a little dirty, but I actually did manage to fix it. it was a wiring issue. And this is not the first case I've seen of a Classic Army G36 with wiring issues, so I think that when they made these there was just a lot of faulty wiring, because that seems to be a reoccurring issue like crazy. Now, immediately I'm going to say the durability on this thing just feels so much better. The stock, no wobble whatsoever. I mean, there is, but that's just because you're pushing in on the button. If you're not, it's not going to wobble at all. Yeah, that is a great stock in comparison to this. Also, the selector switch. It feels like a freaking selector switch should. It rolls into place as it should, as opposed to... This one actually rolls with your finger, and you feel it when it clicks into the spot. That thing is dismal in comparison. Gosh, I don't even know what else the hell I can say about this thing. Performance is just outstanding. Rate of fire is fantastic. If you can manage to find a Classic Army G36, I would say hunt it down, but maybe do something about the wiring. Maybe go into it knowing that it's going to maybe be a little bit subpar, or switch it out from the get-go. Just in my experience, Classic Army G36s tend to be a little picky with the wiring. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Also, a very common thing with G36s is this top sight. I'm gonna hope you can see that. This top sight, the top half of it, which should normally look something more like that, tends to break off. So, yeah, as you can see, that one's broken off. I have seen at least 3 others that have this same exact thing with just the top section broken off. I'm thinking that's just a very, very cheap pot metal, and it just snaps off very easily. It's very brittle. Same thing, charging handle reveals the hop-up. Actually, oh hello, this one's plastic. Interesting. So yeah, that's something, plastic hop-up versus a metal hop-up. I would still very highly recommend this gun. Durability, way, way above what you find on the SRC and probably the JG as well. Not much wobble in any regard. Getting to the battery compartment's not all that difficult. Pull out the pin, take this front end off. Battery goes there, sits inside there. You can also get a nice upgrade for the G36, which I very much like. By the way, I'm well aware that I'm referring to this as a G36 when it's actually a G36C, but for the sake of convenience, I'm just calling it a G36. But yeah, there is a lovely little add-on which you can purchase, which is actually a deep foregrip. So it's much fatter, sits on the front end just the same, you don't need anything else, you just buy the foregrip, and it allows you to put a large type battery in the front end. I do actually have one, which I might be able to reach this point and then show you. That PEQ box out of there. Okay, where's that at? Haha! Now, yes, this one has definitely seen some damage, but that is the deep foregrip, and you can definitely see the size difference in this. This will hold a large type battery, so let's go ahead and throw that down there. Getting the foregrip off of this, just to go back to it, is about the same. Push a pin out, pull that off, battery goes in there. It's still not my favorite method for containing a battery. I just had a lot of bad experience with having to change a battery in the middle of a game, and you drop your pin and you spend about 10 minutes on the ground looking for it. Mostly because you're standing in a shit ton of underbrush. At this point, still my favorite battery compartment goes to the S&T Tabor. That thing's fantastic. Push of a button, slides right off. If you haven't seen my review of that, give that a check. Give that a glance. Oh, come on, you little turd. Oh. Make sure your batteries are actually inside the front end before you put it back on. It's a useful tip. A lot of people actually don't really care for the G36 itself, just because, you know, it's a little too obscure, you know, that they prefer guns that take Armalite mags. G36 mags aren't that hard to come by. Also, something which is fantastic is the possibility of actually getting the Armalite mag well conversion so that your G36 can actually take Armalite mags. If you're looking for a new project gun and you want something obscure, I mean, if you want to do a project gun with an M4, it's not going to take that much effort. M4s are really inexpensive if you go cheaper brand. You get one with a front end rail system, you can throw foregrips, you can throw whatever the hell you want on there, and you can call it a project gun, but it's standard as all hell. So many of them are out there. The G36 is actually a really, really awesome gun to turn into a project gun. I mean, I didn't know this, but there are actually, I mean, I didn't know this until recently, but there are actually alternate stocks you can put on this thing. I mean, you got the very standard G36 stock right here, but then there's also collapsible crane stocks, as well as a few other very, very obscure looking ones, which look freaking awesome, and I'm sure you can find them, but that's something that you can do. There's also, of course, the Armalite magwell conversion. There's different front ends. Finally, one thing which I very much want to track down is the G36 long version carry handle with the built-in scope. That thing is freaking sweet. So yeah, that is pretty much the G36. I'm going to try really hard to get my fellow team member and buddy Justin on here to talk about his project gun, which actually is a G36. He's basically got it to the point where he is trying to throw as many things on there so that he can get people to go, what the hell is that? And it's a secondhand gun, came from a fellow team member and fellow team representative Grayson. He had it for a while. That's the one which actually had all the wiring issues. He babied the crap out of it. It developed a myriad of problems, and finally found its way to Justin for a very cheap price, and then he bought a Boneyard gun and combined the two to form some psychotic mutant, which is now his primary. So I'm going to try and get him on here to talk about that. It's also a classic Army, so it's not going to be anything new. It's just to show off what you can do with a very fun project gun. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. Yeah, overall thoughts? Classic Army's good, but good luck trying to find it, and also for a cheap price. SRC, it's alright. Yeah, I'd recommend it for a new player. Again, my number one suggestion is going to be go with an Echo 1 G36. Again, thanks for watching, guys, and have a great night.